Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for tuning in. So Tim Tszyu, the WBO junior middleweight champion of the world, is the son of a legend, Kostya Tszyu, Australian legend, standout amateur star, 140-pound undisputed champion, lineal champion, defended his belt 5 times, won 5 world titles, reigned at 140. So the question in this video and what we're going to find out is, does Tim Tszyu fight like his dad? Boxing.
Father and son, I think you're always going to pass down little traits. And when they mention the greatest sporting families of all time, not just boxing but of all time, they're going to be mentioning the Tszyu family. Facts.
Okay, shout out to all the subscribers as always. Much love to you. Thank you very much for tuning in as always, and anybody new, welcome along. Gratitude to you. So this video I've been working on for a while. I've been trying to get to the bottom of whether they fight the same, whether Tim Tszyu fights the same as his dad. Now in this video I'm going to go over a lot of the details on their style. I'm going to break down, how they fight. I'm going to bring you a lot of footage as I'm talking and rambling. You're going to be seeing, some explanations as to what I'm talking about. I'll put as much on the screen as I can, and I'm going to go into just to find a deeper detail as to, both of their styles. I'm going to talk about Nikita a little bit as well. I'm going to talk about their family. I'm going to talk about the future of Tim Tszyu, because it's very bright. He's an exceptional fighter. I'm very high on him. He's got a big fight coming up against Keith Thurman, but I've covered multiple videos on him, and I think he's a special fighter, and I think he's going to give his dad a run for his money. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so Kostya Tszyu, right? Front foot, boxer, puncher, power. Obviously that was his trademark. He had tremendous power, but he had that type of leverage, athleticism, power that just stuns fighters. He really put fighters in their box, basically.
His powerful punches are not lost on his respectful but beaten opponents.
I mean, I've been fighting for a while. I've been hit by a lot bigger guys and didn't go anywhere. And this punch, I didn't see it. And that's all she wrote.
Like a cobra.
Like a cobra. Like an elephant. Heavy. Boom.
Speed as well, accuracy and timing were his main attributes. He would come on the front foot. He was fearless. He was very violent. He lacked a bit of defense really, but not that he wasn't capable of it. He had a bit of a lack of discipline as well inside the ring. This is just my opinions, of course, but he often fought with his hands down like this, and that was one of the main shots he got caught with a lot of the time. Kostya Tszyu was a straight right hand or a right hand, because if he didn't have that much head movement, although he could. He was very talented, supremely talented. Now I feel like if he really wanted to be amazing at anything, like he could have had an amazing jab, he could have had an amazing anything, he could have done it. He was just that talented. And if he wanted to have amazing head movement, he could have, but he chose not to. I think he just was very stationary in the middle, used a lot of reactionary ability. As I said, timing and accuracy and his power were his main forces, but he did get hit a bit more than his son. And his son has exceptional defense, and I've done a video about this. A lot of people that are on this channel know and have watched that, and thank you very much. And if you haven't seen that, I'll leave the link up here, because it goes into detail about how good his son is at defense. But the main reason is because it's Tim Tszyu's approach to fighting is a bit more tactical. He's a bit more patient. Yes, he's violent. Yes, he comes on the front foot to put that pressure on, the steady, slow, surgical pressure. Someone on one of my videos before referred to Nikita. I know he's called the butcher. He's a butcher and Tim's the surgeon. I love that. And, he surgically dices his way through his opponents systematically but patiently. Yeah, he's not quite as powerful as his dad in terms of punching, explosive punching power. You could see his dad had explosive, speedy, whippy, unteachable power, really.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? This is going to see. And a left and right by Kostya Tszyu. It's over for sure. Look at Kostya Tszyu. Raining blows. Left and right. Kostya Tszyu.
Tell you one thing, the weather doesn't bother him. He's been training up there in much below zero weather. Fahrenheit. He continues in the heat here of Melbourne, Australia, to follow the Aboriginal Daryl Howes into just about oblivion.
Oh, good body shot. Kostya Tszyu, another knockdown, again on the left hook to the body.
It was just a thing to behold, and Tim's got respectable power, but it's more like a sturdy, hardish power. It will put you in your place and it will do damage, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the speed and leverage that his dad did. So Tim's defense, I'd say straight off the bat, if you wanted to call out the difference, is a big difference for me. His patience, you know, I'm not saying Kostya Tszyu wasn't patient, but because, you know, they're both innately violent, they, you know, come forward and he wants to let his hands go. But Kostya had this, just, you can't teach the hand-eye coordination ability where he could hit you before you could hit him.
His fighting skills were first noticed in the recent World Championships and caught the eye of Australian promoter Bill Morty.
It's just boxing, basically, you know, but again, what let him down really was the defensive mindset, which is IQ, which is you know what Tim has. I wouldn't say in abundance, but the fact that he's able to come on the front foot, use a lot of pressure in the mid-range, walk his opponents down, and rarely get hit clean is amazing. That is an amazing skill. It's one of the hardest things to do in boxing, and Tim can do that. And they both had a great ability to just walk through fire, let combinations go whilst getting hit at the same time. As I said, I'll try to pull up as much footage as I can, but that's that fearlessness that Nikita has. You know, I think Nikita actually has that more than Tim, because he does lack a bit of patience and a lack of defensive responsibility. I think that's the best word to use out of all this. Defensive responsibility Kostya Tszyu lacked, because just a simple thing about not putting your hands up, and that is one of the, like, probably the most important thing in boxing. That and footwork, you could trade the two. I'm sure there's, you know, like a debate to be had, but essentially keeping your hands up is the simplest thing, and it's the most effective thing. It's probably the most important thing. And, you know, there were times Kostya just stood in the mid-range and he just didn't do it. And, you know, that's, I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's perhaps took his skills for granted, maybe, I don't know, because he was so talented, he might not have just needed to. I don't know. It was just a theory I'm throwing out there, but it certainly hurt him against Vince Phillips, who, I mean, he was getting nailed with right hands, and the stationary without any head movement, keeping your head on the line and dropping your hands is only going to result in one thing: getting nailed with the right hand.
Oh, that was a good right hand by Phillips.
Right hand by Phillips lands flush on Kostya's face, cracking twice with the right hand. Hard right hand over the top by Vince Phillips. Kostya Tszyu holds his hands apart.
Oh, that was another on your toes. Oh, that was a good right hand by Johnson. Oh, now I'm talking to. That's why Phillips throws the right hand.
Phillips throwing and landing at just about an equal rate. Tszyu is still wobbling as Phillips goes after it. Vince Phillips on the verge of a big upset here.
Tszyu is out on his feet.
And that's it.
Now, look, incidentally enough and interestingly enough, they both got dropped with the right hand. Kostya Tszyu has probably got, or Tim Tszyu's probably got a slightly better chin. Kostya Tszyu, not that they had bad chin, not that Kostya had a bad chin, but he got dropped a few times. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have a bad chin. He didn't seem to be that hurt. But Vince Phillips was tagging him with those right hands, and then he ended up stopping him in quite a big upset, which is only his second loss of his whole career, both from KOs, and then his last fight ever against Ricky Hatton. That was when he retired. So I always, like, you know, I want to look a little harder at that loss, because it's like, if it's the last loss of your career, George Groves just sprang to mind, because, you know, fighters' mentality at that point, they got one foot out the door, they might be injured, they just kind of, Kostya Tszyu had over 270 amateur fights, do you know what I mean? So by this time, you know, you wonder if it's like, if the desire is there. So, you know, really and truly, that, I'm not saying that a Hatton win wasn't a legit win, it certainly was, but I just wonder how much was left at that point. But the Vince Phillips one, that was a legit loss, and that came down to a lack of discipline and just perhaps a bit of arrogance in your own skill set, you know, because he was so talented, like I said, and he just got complacent with staying in that mid-range with his head on the line, with his hands like dropped. But no, look, he had a tremendous career, and those performances, like, he could just out-punch you basically and outland you and just time you as well. Had good counter-punch. His son is actually a better counter-puncher, I think, because it's more of a process. He's more thinking about, like, when Tim's walking fighters down, you can see his concentration levels are far higher, and this is a massive part of his game. You look at, and I mentioned that in the video, you look at his concentration, and he is reading his opponents. He comes in with his hands up, which is discipline, concentration, and he's able to time and feel his opponents from counter punching. Kostya Tszyu could counter punch too, as I said, but Tim Tszyu, I think, is a better counterpuncher because it's more of a thought process. It's part of his patient, surgical, systematic breakdown of fighters, you know. People have referred to Tim Tszyu as basic. Look, Zab Judah mentioned this as well in a recent interview.
I mean, Kostya Tszyu and Tim Tszyu, when you look at their styles, are they similar, Zab?
A little bit, but, you know, I don't know. I think Costa was a little bit more fluent than Tim is. You know what I'm saying? I think he threw more combinations than what Tim Tszyu. You know, Tim Tszyu he's a pretty hard puncher, but he's like a basic 1-2, 1-2-3 kind of fighter. You know what I mean? I think he's good. I like him. You know, he's impressive. Anybody that stands in front of him is going that night. He's knocking them out 100%.
Obviously, he fought his dad and got knocked out in what is the second round badly, and that was one of the funniest chicken dances you'll see. But Zab's a legend around here in Brooklyn, and he was an amazing fighter. And what Kostya Tszyu did to him in such a short space of time, and that power, just, I mean, my gosh. But I've lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Man. I was just sat there for 2 minutes. I couldn't think about what I was saying, so I had to play the video back and watch it and speak on it. I was talking about it, people referring to Tim Tszyu as being basic. Now, he's far from basic because of the stuff he does defensively and the stuff he does, the cute little stuff I'll get onto in a minute. But from an offense point of view, I can understand where they're coming from, because it's like jab, boom, boom, 1-2, left hook to the body, 1-2 hook. You know, he does keep his offense. I don't even really like to use the word basic, because but the basic combinations, if you will, fine, you can use that. But people, I think, use that and then loop him in as basic. He's anything but. He's a very, very, very advanced fighter, and he's going to be around for a long time. He's going to get some big wins under his belt. But look, he'll come forward, and something he does, which, like, it kind of blew my mind actually, because there's a comparison I'm about to make that might shock you, because it surprised me. But he's got this shoulder roll ability, right? And it reminds me of Roger Mayweather, right? Who ironically fought Kostya Tszyu. And I'll pull some clips up now of the two. And Tim Tszyu can stay in mid-range, right? And he can see shots coming. He'll shoulder roll it like that. And it's not as fluid as the Mayweathers, but it's effective, right? And he'll come back with uppercuts like that. He's done it in every fight from the Goucher fight. And it's remarkable, because that is so hard to do when you are in the mid-range and you've got a world or a top-level fighter throwing right hands at you. Tony Harrison, Brian Mendoza, they were doing it. They couldn't hit him for anything right here. I mean, not that they couldn't hit him at all, but the percentage was very low. But a lot of times he just was concentrating, shoulder rolling it, coming back with uppercuts. And another thing he does, what Mayweather does too, is he'll use his forearms a lot to block. He'll use his forearms to shut offense down. He'll get his shoulders, he'll get his elbows in there, and he'll tuck his chin under here. He'll push the shots up like that. He'll turn, catch the body shots in here. His hands are up here. It's really cute stuff. If you look at it with a bit of a magnifying glass, he's 20% of Roger Mayweather's skills. Tim Tszyu's got, I think personally. I've looked at Golovkin thinking, I've heard a couple of people compare Golovkin to them. I think maybe Kostya a bit, but you know, Golovkin was way more jab dominant and set his punches up with that. Obviously they were both aggressive and they had a little bit of the Eastern European thing. Tim and his dad like to shoot that little overhand right, okay? If a jab comes in here, boom, like that, or if it doesn't, there's a sneaky overhand right that they like to chuck in. They both got really good left hooks to the body. Kostya Tszyu has got a sensational left hook to the body because he just whips it in there, and that's that leverage power that just goes boom like that. Speedy, hard shots. And Tim's got a good left hook to the body as well. Keith Thurman's going to know about that pretty soon. But you know, in terms of accuracy, obviously Kostya Tszyu was tremendously accurate, and his timing of just being able to, like I said, just naturally read your opponent and react and beat them to the punch, essentially. That was a big part of his game, and that's just something you can't teach, and that's something that Tim doesn't have, to be honest with you. But what he doesn't have, he has, I think, more for a higher ceiling. That might surprise people. I think personally, was he 28, 29? I mean, maybe let me just pause on the higher ceiling, but I think he's going to be right up there with accolades with his dad, to be honest with you, if he keeps going the way he's going, because he's got the discipline, because he's got the defense, all right, and because he's got that unteachable desire to go to the gym and want to better yourself, and he wants to be active, and they want to get these best fighters. There was a lot of criticism about the Keith Thurman fight, and I made a video against the criticism because I was trying to say, well, who else is he going to fight? Jamel Charlo's not picking up the phone. The talks fell through with Bud. They wanted that fight. Lubin fell through. They priced himself out, supposedly. Then you look down the list of like credible opponents that are actually going to get the juices flowing. Thurman was a decent pick, and it's not like they started out with that. So it's a decent name. If he does take care of business, then they're going to have that and move on to bigger and better things, because that's what they want to do. And this past year, if you look at from the Gachet fight, right, how he was a bit stiff in that fight, right? Obviously he got dropped, which I think was the best thing for him, because he went back to the drawing board and really like was probably his approach to attacking probably got more defensive whilst being offensive. It probably did him a favor. But you know, as I said earlier, he got dropped just like his dad. It was really uncanny.
Awkward right now. Right now. Here he comes with a quick left and a right, and down goes Tszyu.
But look, he's got, I think, you know, all the tools and the ability to be a great fighter, and just to match his dad or get close to it, and maybe even succeed him, because, you know, it's that gym rat. Okay, the gym rat. And you know, I mentioned that in the Keith Thurman video I did, that he looked a bit nervous at the press conference. I like that, because it's just that's not his thing. He wants to just get to work, improve, and keep getting better and better and better, and the discipline's out of control. And I watched this video about him and his brother. I don't know if you've seen it. It's got about 1 million views. I'll leave the link in the description. But Kostya's dad is Korean Mongolian, I think, something like that. Definitely Korean. I think there's some Mongolian. I think he grew up in Siberia, parts of Siberia where, you know, they were probably hunting Siberian tigers when they were like 4 years old or something crazy. You know, like they just do things differently out there. It just breeds just an absolutely hard man, like better beer, basically. You know, that's where I'm going with that. You know, they're just so used to life being hard that boxing's easy. So they were doing this generational passed down knuckle strengthening thing, right? Banging this thing that had like rocks in it.
When we punch faces, it's not going to hurt our hands. So we can punch without the fear. Just
after fight.
You can see their hands like stained yellow.
And his grandpa came out with like this Mongolian not poison, like antidote or whatever it was. It was very interesting, and it was like, you know, go and watch the video. It's only about 5 minutes long, but they do that on a daily basis to strengthen their hands. You know, you don't get people in the West doing that stuff. Maybe, but very rare. But that's another thing. He's got that Eastern European mentality. They both do. And I'm making a documentary about Nikita as well. Shout out to all the Australians locked in. I know you guys watch these videos, and I appreciate it. You know, I'm trying to, you know, home in on some of these fighters, and Nikita is another one. A couple of people have asked me to do something on him, and I shall do that. And I'm slowly working on it. It's going to be called, you know, obviously The Butcher, but it'll be loosely based off of Gangs of New York, because I like to throw in a bit of art. I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of boxing fans, but that's what I like to do. But anyway, I think I've been rambling long enough. This might take me quite a while to edit, but I'm alright with it. I'm really happy about it, because, you know, I generally love covering fighters that love to get better. That's what this channel is about. You got heart, skills. I love skills, okay? I really do. Skills, heart, determination, getting better, being the best version of you. That is what Tim Tszyu is all about, and that's why I've got so much love for him, because he's trying to do that. He's trying to get the best version of himself, and he's obviously got some natural gifts, but he's not, I'll do a full summary, he's not as naturally gifted. But when you say naturally gifted, what, like, you often think of speed, power, agility, athleticism, you know, these things. But what Tim has got naturally gifts is his concentration and his patience and his systematic approach to fighting, right? And his dad, who had the athleticism, timing, power, speed, all those things that, you know, not to say Tim doesn't have, but he's far lower down percentage if you're going to measure it out of 100. And Nikita's actually got the power, you know, but he doesn't have the speed, he doesn't have the defensive responsibility yet, and he doesn't have the athleticism. He's a stocky guy, do you know what I mean? It's not that he's not athletic, but he's not that twitchy, you know, like Kostya is. Fascinating, really, because they've both got elements of their dad. They just distribute it in different ways. But right now, I'd say Tim's got the far higher ceiling. Look, he's been fighting longer. He's got more fights under his belt. It's obvious, fairly obvious. But yeah, Tim, more patient, more methodical, better counter puncher because he sticks to it. I think Kostya, if he was just a counter puncher, probably would be better. But he just likes to go out there and fight and outpoint you, out time you, hit you harder, you know, like be more violent basically. So but yeah, both, I mean, Kostya's a better puncher. His punches coming way quicker, speedier. They're more flashy, if you will, you know. But Kostya lacked the discipline in fight, as I mentioned. Just simple things like keeping his hands up, getting tagged with the same punch. You know, he's been getting hit with right hands his whole, well, a lot of his career. And Tim, obviously, if you see that, look, he got hit with a couple of right hands against Mendoza, but he didn't get hit and going in like he did against Kostyra. So that's going back to the drawing board and learning, which is what I think is going to make Tim Tszyu such a force. Anyway, that's it from me. Before I go, I do want to say I've left a little montage at the end, I think you call it, but I made a piece of music. If you're interested in supporting the channel, I know my brother's going to be happy with it. He's been telling me to plug my own music on this channel, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. But if you are into the track, it's just like a violin, piano beat. But I'll leave the link, and if you want to purchase the track, it's $1. But it's a way of promoting my own music. But I left it with the montage at the end. I hope you enjoy it. It's a bunch of clips from him, his son, and Roger Mayweather as well, and Tim Tszyu, all in one, and maybe a couple of Golovkins if I can find him doing the same thing, or any other fighter that I see that might be similar. But let me know your thoughts if you have anybody that you think he fights like, or if there's something that you disagreed with, or if there's something you want to add. I'm all ears. But for now, Boxing on the Edge, thank you so much for tuning in. Peace and love.
Across the ring is the defending world champion. On my left, introducing the
Kostya Tszyu.
Kostya Tszyu. Introducing Tim
this interim belt, but I'm not satisfied. I want all 4.
You see, when you have 1, 2, so many belts, you have to defend the mandatory defense nearly all the time.
And so you continue the mandatory defenses?
Yes, I am prepared to fight against #1 contender all the time till something else coming up.
Boxing.
On it is.